Back in June, PlayStation dropped a beautiful trailer for the newest Tetris game, the Tetris Effect. The music, the visuals, and the brief narrative all blend seamlessly to give you a weirdly calming and oddly inspiring feeling deep in your gut. So much so that I've probably watched it 10 times since it dropped, and judging by the view count, I don't think I'm alone. But as a psychology geek, I immediately recognized the study that was mentioned about the amnesiac patients who saw falling blocks in their dreams hours and even days after playing Tetris for the first time. Now, obviously, this is incredible, and I think the story will help sell a ton of copies of Tetris Effect like it probably did for copies of Tetris in 2000 when the research was originally published. But I'm interested in digging deeper into the study itself. So today on Psych of Play, let's talk about amnesia, falling blocks, dreams, and the fascinating implications of the real-life study that gave birth to the Tetris Effect. This is Robert Stickgold. He is a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, and in 2000, he and his team conducted the famous Tetris Effect study. But before he ran his study with amnesiacs or with Tetris, he originally was studying sleep, or more specifically, dreaming. He hypothesized that one of dreaming's key functions is to organize and cement information gathered during the day. In an article he and his colleagues published in 1999, they found that subjects who had slept for 6 hours or more after learning a new task, like spotting a target on screen as quickly as possible, improved at that task, whereas those who did not sleep well on it showed no improvement. They even found that those who improved the most slept for 8 hours, meaning they likely had both slow wave and rapid eye movement periods of sleep. After these findings, Stickgold wanted to take a closer look at the first hour of sleep, or the hypnagogic phase. But for this study, instead of using their previous task of locating dots on screen, they used the 80s classic Tetris. The subjects would play for 3 days, 2 hours of the morning and evening on the first day, and for an hour each morning and evening on the following days. Then, they would report their dreams immediately following their first hour of sleep. Of the 27 total subjects, 12 were newbies who had never played the game before, 10 were experts who had logged 100 plus hours of Tetris prior to the experiment, and the remaining 5 were amnesiacs, specifically anterograde amnesiacs, meaning they can't create new memories. They can use some of their short-term memory, but actually storing information to long-term memory is a no-go. If you have ever seen the movie Memento, that is a really good portrayal of the condition. Now, more than likely, Stickgold included the amnesiacs in the study as a sort of control group. Since they won't remember playing Tetris or even how to play, Stickgold figured that it's unlikely they will recall anything about the game or report anything in their hypnagogic dreams. Of course, we know from the trailer that he was mistaken, at least about the amnesiacs. 17 of the 27 subjects all reported seeing the same images during hypnagogic sleep, falling geometric shapes that, if placed properly, would clear and provide more space for more shapes. What's fascinating is that the subjects, both novice and expert, that dreamed of the shapes actually tended to improve their score more than those who did not, suggesting that dreaming may act as a form of unconscious practice, where the mind rehearses actions until it can process that given information or skill more effectively, at least in the case of those with normal memory. As you would imagine, the amnesiacs had no memory of playing Tetris. They had to be taught how to play again for days 2 and 3, and they showed no improvement in score. This much Stickgold had right. But what no one on his team could have expected was that of the 5 amnesiac subjects, 3 reported identical falling block dreams to those with normal memory, which should not happen. So, what exactly is going on here? Although the amnesiac patients could play Tetris in the moment using their short-term and working memory, none of the information should have made it to long-term memory. Nothing during these play sessions should have been internalized. The fact that these dreams of Tetris manifested hours, even days after gameplay goes against everything that is commonly believed of anterograde amnesia, at least at the time. There is still no central agreed upon explanation for this phenomena, but there are a few scholarly theories. Dr. Stickgold and Dr. Richard Heyer of UC Irvine seem to think that in some cases, anterograde amnesia only inhibits the ability to learn about events that have passed, but doesn't stop the images from them. In other words, the part of the brain that sends visual information to long-term memory works just fine, but the semantics that go with it and ascribe meaning to those images get left behind. It'd be like if you saw a bicycle for the first time in a dream, but later had no clue how to ride it, or that you even could ride it, or how it worked, or even what it was. You just recognized it. This would explain why the subjects saw the shapes, but didn't really know why they were seeing them or what they represented. And that was also evident in their lack of score improvement. Another school of thought seems to think that the definition of anterograde amnesia may need to be rethinked altogether. If anterograde patients can recall this one thing accurately hours later, it would give reason to believe that something was in fact stored to long-term memory. And if that is true, it's not beyond the realm of possibility to think that a lot of information gets stored, even if it is incomplete. Now, of course, anterograde amnesiacs don't remember these things, but if information is being stored, the problem is not the creation of long-term memories, but the retrieval. In other words, the common definition of anterograde amnesia may be backwards. What the Tetris Effect trailer didn't tell you was one of the testimonies of an assistant during the study. Harvard undergrad David Roddenberry noticed that one of the amnesiacs who did not remember the game actually placed her fingers on the computer keys in the correct position for playing before receiving any instruction. He commented that she did not quite know what she was doing, and yet she did know what she was doing. So the problem for these subjects may be that they can't access the information needed effectively. It may very well be there, just lying dormant or incomplete. So as you can see, both of these theories have some ground to them, but what if the answer lies in the practicality of the information being learned? Meet Clive Waring, and then get ready to meet him again every 30 seconds. Clive has anterograde amnesia, as you might have guessed, but he also has retrograde amnesia, meaning he has lost all memory leading up to the incident that caused his condition. So he genuinely lives in the moment at all times. Now, what's especially interesting about Mr. Waring here is that he has no problem playing the piano. In fact, it's one of his favorite hobbies, even though he has zero recollection of having ever learned. He doesn't know how old he was, where he was, or who taught him, and yet the skill has remained with him over the years. He can retrieve the information needed to play, but can't retrieve the information of names, faces, dates, and places. His procedural memory is mostly intact, however his declarative memory is what suffers. And I think if we apply this to the Tetris study, we can get closer to a more complete answer. Mr. Waring obviously stored episodic and procedural memory early in life, but can only retrieve procedural information and more emotionally charged information like his wife's face. So I don't think it's far off to say that the amnesiacs in the Tetris study did store some information to long-term memory, but could only retrieve echoes of Tetris pieces because they relate to a procedure and a skill. And a lot of research does support this and Stickgold solution. Declarative memory is typically handled by the hippocampus, which is what anterograde patients have damage in. However, procedural memory is managed in the cerebellum and motor cortex, a completely different region of the brain, which would explain why amnesia has a much less drastic effect on the recall of procedural memories. So it would appear that amnesia in a lot of cases is selective. Although the Tetris Effect trailer sells Tetris as this magical sort of otherworldly game that is memorable to even amnesiacs, the phenomena that Dr. Stickgold stumbled upon is by no means specific to Tetris. Chess players, athletes, and even programmers like Santiago Gonzalez have all reported seeing their craft in their dreams. Here's a short clip from an interview where Santiago explains what happens when he comes across an especially troubling string of code.
Sometimes when I go to sleep, I'm stuck with an annoying bug that I can't fix. And in my dreams, I see myself programming. And when I wake up, I have figured out the solution.
I think the big takeaway here is that procedural information is processed differently in the human mind. If our brain subconsciously deems a skill necessary to learn, it will take initiative and practice that skill on its own, often in the form of dreams. So whether you are an amnesiac learning Tetris for the first time, or an expert trying to take your game to the next level, when you close your eyes at night, don't be surprised if you too see the falling blocks. Hey, thanks for watching. If this is your first time here, be sure to let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe if you like what you saw. We're getting close to 1 year on this channel, so thank you so much for the love and support if you've been here for a bit, and if you just got here. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.